in this episode, I'm going to talk about the Pokemon box. And there's treasure inside. I'm going to talk about what the story location looks like to me in my mind for based on the story in the book. So, obviously, we're going to start at the trailhead. And he mentions there's a sign there. And I know a lot of people think that that sign is one that says, like, no dogs allowed or something like that, based on the Pokemon that's not supposed to be in the area. So I'm just gonna go with that. That's a good start. And then he talks about how he headed up trail. And so at the beginning of the trail, he's already going up. So that could be either direction. For the sake of my story right now, I'm gonna go to the right. So based on where you're at and your trailhead is, I would definitely make sure once you start going that you're going up, whether it's left or right. And then just a little way in, he talks about how he heard a rustling noise in the leaves. Then after that is when he actually saw the mother raccoon and her two offspring climb up the oak tree, 7 feet high, he even mentioned. He actually thought it was something else, but the Froggy reminded him that no, they're raccoons. So wherever your search is, make sure that raccoons are um, in that area. But then the Froggy leaves him. So he hopped over some leaves and left. Nice friend. But he marched on without him. And then that's when the path became increasingly shaded. Then the path became mysterious and hauntingly gorgeous. But that didn't seem to last long because then he talks about how it increasingly got hemmed in. So much so that he almost lost his way. And I have been on many trails like that. Well, then he gets to the middle. This is another reason why there are many reasons why I think it's a circular trail, and I'm sure a lot of you do too. But he sat on a rock in the middle of it all. Not only did he just sit there on the rock, he also at this rock in this area is where the Froakie reappears. He hops from rock to rock, and he also brings a friend with him. So this area has to be somewhere where the rocks are big enough for them to hang out, and this is where he shows him all the treasure in the box and everything. So wherever you are on your trails when you get to this point, it has to be something where they hung out and did all of this stuff. But then that's when they reversed course. So that's interesting. So if it's a circular trail or not, does that mean you go back where you just came from and reverse that way? Or do you reverse and go on the other side of the circular trail? Because if you're sitting at the middle on a rock doing all that stuff, reverse course could be either direction, technically. You could reverse and go back, or you can reverse and keep going, but you're also still going in the opposite direction, if that makes sense, because it's a circular trail. This is also when he is reminded of being 5 years old, which I think is very interesting, and I'm going to come back to that comment too. Okay, and the reason why I think it's a circular trail is because he starts mentioning new information about the trail. He talks about how the forest opened up, and then this is the first time we hear anything about water, which we know there's water on the trail because of the picture. But he talks about minnows at water's edge. Then he mentions seeing an eagle high above. These are things he did not mention anything about on his way up the trail. So I'm assuming he's coming back down the trail, seeing these things. And he was really excited I feel like when he was talking about nature was alive all around us. Which it didn't seem like that, on the first half of the story when he was going up to the rock. Then the comment that really got me, sorry, the comment that really got me the most is when he said, we circled back. And I'm assuming a lot of people feel like it's a circular, a loop path because of that comment. But I think it's a loop just because everything is so different from the first half of the story versus the second half. And then I think We Circle Back is just like it just, confirms it for me that it's a circular or a loop path. So, but then when he says we circled back, which way back and how far? This is the biggest question. I think I'm losing my voice. I've been lecturing a lot this week, so I apologize if my voice sounds a little scratchy. So that's why the question marks. I don't know which way. Like, do we go back to where he just came from, or do we go back where he first started? Circled back where? If you're near the end of the trail, circling back could go in either direction. So I think that's interesting. So this is important because after he circles back, this is where he hides the box. He said he left, or we left the box not far from a place where locals turn up from time to time. So where could that be? Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to figure out. And it has to be, he said, all these boxes were, not really somewhere special, but he hid them certain places on purpose. So what could that mean? I think so the last comment he made about the path, he said, I started the walk back towards where we'd begun our day. But I have a feeling that when he walked back, I feel like when he circled back, he circled all the way back to where he says, it reminded me of being 5 years old. After he reversed course, reminded me of being 5 years old, because that takes me back to the beginning of the story, right? When he talks about being 5 years old and taking this trip to begin with. So I think when he circles back, he goes all the way back to the area on the trail, wherever that is, to where it reminded him of being 5 years old, right after he reversed course after sitting on the rock. And then he just continued back down with the comment, he just back towards where he first began his day. That's why I think he went back where he first started, past the rock, past the hemmed in area and the hauntingly gorgeous area, the shaded, area, even past the raccoons and all that. I think he went back out that way. I think he pretty much made the loop twice. So maybe we're even looking at like a 1.5 mile trail or something, because you could still do that twice and hit the 3 mile mark. And, that's the kind of trails I've been looking at. I've already been out boots in the ground on a couple like this already. And I'm just going to keep checking based on this. Because let's face it, this story can fit many trails. It already fits a lot of trails that I'm looking at. But then when you add the picture to it, obviously the trails get limited. But there's still a lot of trails out there, a lot of options with the picture, with that map in my head. For some reason, I still feel like the trail for this story is somewhere in the Mark Twain National Forest in southern Missouri. I could be totally wrong. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, I don't have a box. But that's the area I'm looking in. And in the meantime, while I'm looking, I keep that story in my mind. So my goal is to continue mapping out this story when I go boots on the ground as I'm hiking, because it definitely helps me, especially because I'm a very visual learner. That's just how I learn, and I teach practical learning, things, and along with all my lectures. But it's just my opinion, and it helps me when I'm out there. So I'm going to continue using this mapping system for my story and just see what happens. So what does your story look like for the Pokemon box? Is this kind of what you're thinking, or something totally different? Or do you think I'm just like totally off? I don't know. You could just let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.